attempt is the good part.
Mark, did you should put it up?
You know what? I'm going to get up and
Welcome to Tiempo Latino. I mean, CTV, I'm sorry. Good evening. I think we're starting, Mark.
no, he didn't do his wavy thing through the glass yet. Okay, we're on. All right. So, Trump, the Trumpies attempt fascism. That's what I think is going on. Many of the Trumpies probably don't know that's what it is, but it sure looks like that to me, and it's very frightening. You know, when a president doesn't respond to the Congress, any part of the Congress, you know, either house of the Congress, and won't give them information, and he gets away with it for months, if not years, you're really talking about a dictatorship, especially if he's not removed through this impeachment process. It's a frightening time, you know, because you definitely have, and in the future still, we will have some kind of dictatorship, I think, unless this guy is successfully removed, and if not that, de-elected. Even if he loses the election, I think that this guy will be attempting some sort of coup d'etat against the Constitution, and he has a lot of people behind him who are true believers in his anti-democratic, fascistic mission that he seems to embody. I mean, he's a very ignorant person, but he's not stupid. I'm convinced that he is a person who has criminal intelligence. He has the intelligence to be a bully. He has an intelligence to evade the truth, to evade the law, to skirt the law, to be a criminal and a bully and a bad person, and somehow he's gotten away with it all his life and made a few bucks here and there. But in the meantime, he also seems to have become some kind of Russian agent. You know, when he was going bankrupt, after all of his scandals and all of his bad investments and tremendous debt by the end of the 80s, he found the Soviet Russians. The Soviets first latched onto him and started making a big deal about him, and he was making visits already after his Czech wife. He married his Czech wife, and that gave him Soviet contacts. He actually, his wife is believed to, his first wife is believed to have been some kind of Eastern Bloc agent, or had those ties. Certainly her father had been an agent, had been a well-known asset in Czech intelligence, Czech pro-Soviet, government intelligence. So anyway, this is the most incredible thing that's happening. What do you have to say, Pablo? I mean,
well, I just can't believe the cynicism of the Republican Mark.
I know.
The lies, they know that Trump is a criminal. They know that he was trying to start in Zelensky, the president of Ukraine.
Right. They know all this. I know they do. Yeah. You're right.
Even though they know that he's a criminal, they don't care.
They're kind of proud of his lying, no holds barred political, wrestle moves, dirty wrestle moves that this guy makes.
I hope that the people take in consideration these lies.
Yeah.
And when they go to vote in November 4th, I think those are the next elections, right? they vote
Right.
out these.
Well,
these
there
guys,
are
these
primary
these
elections,
liars,
of
no?
course. So be active in your anti-Trump politics, wherever you may be. And if you're a Trumpy, think about it. Think about what it means when a president doesn't respond to the Congress. The only way the Congress has an impeachment power is if the president responds to anything. And this president has not responded. I mean, he has sent out, he's participating in the trial thing because he believes he's going to get out of that pretty much unscathed, and maybe he will. But the President of the United States doesn't believe in limits. He doesn't understand the value of our Constitution. He's an extremely ignorant person. He's very uneducated, but he has criminal intelligence. He wants to be dictator. He thinks that's a good idea.
Schiffer, right?
Schiff? What about Schiff?
He's one of the managers now of the impeachment.
Yeah, he's the chair of the Intelligence Committee, right?
The chair of the Intelligence Committee. He's a congressman of the House, and he's warning people. He's telling if we don't stop this criminal,
we could be going towards dictatorship.
He's going to do it again.
Yeah, exactly. This becomes precedent. Trump is already, as Schiff pointed out, Pablo, the day after Barr exonerated him or whatever, and he felt like, I'm glad that's all over with somehow from before. Then he made the call to the new president Zelensky, right? The next day
to start him
after he was
quid pro quo. Quid pro quo.
Yes, and there was a quid pro quo. And the Republicans go out there on the floor of the Senate and say, there was no quid pro quo. There's no evidence. There's no evidence of anything. There's no evidence, which is strange because I saw about 12 people from the Republican administration of Trump out of the White House come and testify that there was lots of evidence. So,
well, the evidence is overwhelming, Mark.
Yes, overwhelming already.
I mean, now John Bolton, the former advisor of security, he just came out yesterday, I think. He has a book already where he said that Trump told him that he was planning to start Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and pressure him to investigate Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden,
who I guess
the candidate.
Yeah, who made a lot of money. The Republicans say he had no expertise. What is this? So there's the appearance of some kind of something fishy. So it could be that it's a kind of nepotism where they just hired the son of the vice president. Vice president didn't have much to do with it, but he was the son of the vice president, and they wanted this guy in their company. Who knows why? They're Ukrainians. So maybe in a way it wasn't such a great thing, but it's not the sort of. I doubt that it's the kind of corrupt thing that led to the president deciding to do this. All the people who've testified say that they knew that it was the president being worried about Biden and wanting to influence the election. Well, we have evidence for that.
I don't understand, Mark. John Bolton he's ultra conservative.
Yes.
And I don't understand why he's attacking Trump.
Well, the reason
to me is incredible, unbelievable.
Well, but what is Trump? Is he an ultra conservative? Trump is the guy from the outside who's whipped up the ignorant, poor masses who helped to vote in the Republican Party. And the people who are like real elites in the Republican Party are probably horrified,
scandalized,
that Trump is leading the masses in this way because it's dangerous. Because Trump is so ignorant and maybe influenced by the Russians. I mean, that kind of almost seems likely. But anyway, the Russians have invested lots of money in his corporation, his holding company,
His
over the
campaign.
years. They saved him. And he money launders their money. He makes their money clean, their criminal money. Essentially, Russia is a mafia state, and Trump is like a mafia
President.
sort of minion of the Russian mob, it seems to me. But he's the president, so there you go. That accounts for a lot of the strange mystery of Trump. Bolton, in his book, says that Trump doesn't like the Ukrainians. He says, what business do they have being a country? They're not a country. They're really part of Russia, aren't they? That's what my friend Putin tells me. So, of course,
So this is the reason why John Bolton hates him.
Because Bolton is in favor of the great and grand American empire that has made a stable world, a better world ever since World War II. This is part
According to Bolton.
This is how Bolton sees it. And Trump doesn't even know what Pearl Harbor was. And they're like, ugh, you can't believe how ignorant this guy is. And he's controlling foreign policy and military policy in such a way that he's destroying the alliances that have made the United States especially strong compared to any other country. I mean, the U.S. has a great military, no doubt about it. But what's more impressive is that the U.S. is situated, because of its history and its reputation and its links, to most of the world.
And Trump is destroying all
bases all over the place. And Trump is just threatening that in a very big way. Trump doesn't see the value in it. And neither do many of the people in the United States, because we probably don't educate our people all that well. And also there are complaints against the idea of having an American empire of a sort anyway.
But why he went to work for Trump, Bolton? I don't understand.
Well, because he was the Republican, and this was his chance. He was known as an extreme right-winger, and Trump brought in extremely
He supported the war in Iraq, right?
Yes.
In Afghanistan.
Trump has brought in very far right-wing people and also very corrupt people who want to somehow benefit from being in the government commercially.
And let's give a context about who's Bolton, Mark. I mean, that's important for the people to know. Bolton is the...
He was the National Security Advisor. He was the ambassador to the UN under Bush Jr. And his involvement in Republican presidential administrations, I think, go back to Bush, the father, Bush Sr., right?
And then when Trump was extorting Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, Bolton say, I don't want to be part of this drug deal, right?
Bolton told Hill that he was telling,
Who's Hill?
Hill was Bolton's assistant, but he told her, go tell them all that I don't want to be a part of this drug deal that Mulvaney and Sondland are cooking up. And he also said...
Referring to the extortion of Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, right?
Yeah, the this and that, including your weapons and your money, for announcing that you think the Bidens did something wrong and you're having an investigation whether you do one or not.
Because he saw this deal as something so corrupt, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So he said, I don't want to be part of this.
Well, he saw, corrupt, yes. I mean, Bolton is, I believe he's a lawyer, and he's also, he has a right-wing agenda, but he doesn't want to break the law, and I think Bolton has...
He knows he can go to jail for this, right?
I think he has some sense of allegiance to the projection of power of the United States, and he doesn't want to see it all, just destroyed, through incompetent or...
He believes in the empire,
or
right?
corruptly treasonous means. Yes, he believes in this thing that we have that's something like an empire. He thinks it's for the good, and it benefits the country, and it benefits the world. That's what...
this is a big deal, Mark. This influential politician, John Bolton, practically betraying Trump, right?
It's a very big deal.
In front of everyone.
I think it means that there's still a chance that one thing will lead to another,
He can be expelled, right?
and he could be expelled. And I think
Trump can be expelled still.
he still
Right.
could be expelled. I think it's still possible. Yes, really.
Well, they were saying they need 2 more Republican senators to be able to bring witnesses to the trial.
I heard
Trial.
this
Trial.
all the way until about 1 o'clock this afternoon. I was hearing that what's his name? The Speaker. Well, who's the Senate leader? The Senate controller, Mitch McConnell. The
Moscow Mitch.
Moscow Mitch this morning and last night he announced that he didn't have enough votes to prevent witnesses. That's what I knew from, and that was still supposedly
That was breaking news.
until about 1 o'clock. So maybe he has it now, but it's still another day or two before they're going to get to that vote. So it's a remarkable turnaround, and I think that maybe it's falling apart for the president. I actually pray to the gods, the political gods of reason and truth and political stability and well-being, that is the case, that we will be saved, and that Moscow Mitch will see the light and know that Trump has to go. Because Trump, he's like a 14-year-old baby man who's actually 70 in chronological years, but he's like having your bratty high school fascist-leaning child become president of the United States.
What
It's
about
such a
Bernie,
nightmare.
Mark? Bernie's up in Iowa, 29% and 25% in New Hampshire, or the other way, 25 and 29, no, right?
Well, he's the front runner, so he has like 20-something percent. and the
So
rest
he
is
can be the president, our next president, Mark.
still could be. I'm rooting for him. Yeah.
I'm
Maybe
supporting
Elizabeth
Bernie.
Warren can be vice president. And since he's older than she is, that could work out okay. He could like maybe do 4 years, and if he continues to deteriorate, then perhaps we can retire him, and we could have Elizabeth Warren. Between the two of them, they are pulling about 40% of the electorate already of the Democratic Party in the primaries, according to national polls anyway.
I just
think.
I just can't believe that Bernie is so popular, Mark.
Yeah, well,
He's suddenly just is gaining tremendous popularity. Well, last election he was popular, but this year he seems more popular, right?
I don't know yet.
Winning,
It's early.
winning Iowa and New Hampshire is like Obama won New Hampshire and he lost Iowa. So he became president. So this means that he can be the next president of the United States.
He could, and I think it's very possible. The Republican establishment doesn't want him to be the nominee, though. They say they think that he can't win. I think it's more like they know that he can win the primary. They tell us that he can't win the general election against Trump, but there's so much to throw at Trump. There's so much lying that he's done. I mean, if we might as well go for Bernie, I think, because I don't think Bernie will. I think Bernie will fight a better fight than Biden.
I saw
actually.
Michael Moore a few days ago, and he was saying, well, Bernie is he's an old person, and he's dedicating his life to the people.
Sure, yeah, I would say that.
He just have like how much more, like 10, 20 years maybe.
Maybe.
And
if he lives to be 90 or so.
He's fighting for the people,
Sure, I think so. Yeah, I think it's worth a shot.
I would like to see Ocasio-Cortez being on the ticket too, Mark.
I don't think she can because of her age, though.
She's too young.
Yeah, but maybe she can get in once somebody leaves the later ticket, maybe in another 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
Well, that's very exciting news,
According
Mark.
to the Constitution, there's a low age limit for the high offices. I think you have to be 30 to be a senator. I think you have to be 34 to be vice president or president. No one's been that young yet, 34.
So very, very good news in Iowa and New Hampshire. Nevada is leaning towards Bernie, California. I think if he wins the North, he's got the ticket. I don't know. What do you think? But Trumpy has to be expelled from the presidency, Mark. Trump, you know.
If he's expelled, we heal the damage to the Constitution faster. If he's not expelled, I think we really do have a dictatorship. I mean, what is the difference between Trump and a dictatorship if he refuses to do what the Congress orders him to do in terms of their oversight capacity? They then have lost all their actual power in the Constitution already. So he's already as the other impeachment manager, what's his? Nadler. Nadler has said, well, he becomes a dictator. I suppose Schiff has essentially said the same thing. He's threatening, or already is, a dictator. And best scenario there is that he's unelected and he actually leaves office, or he gets, before we even come to that, he gets impeached. I think we're safer if he gets impeached, because if he loses the election by votes, he can always do his thing where he says, oh, another corrupt election, you know. The election was actually fake news, I didn't lose.
Well,
I won.
Today I was listening NPR, and they were telling, like, they were interviewing this guy who wrote a book about the danger of Trump becoming a dictator. And for example, like, Trump lies all the time, right?
All the time, like Hitler lied all the time.
And he tells like this
like
unbelievable
mystical.
lies,
Mystical.
Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. And
he said the 3 million people without documents vote in the last election.
Yeah, he just makes things up on the spur of the moment.
I mean, this is insane.
It does. He's lied something like 65,000 times, according to some watchdog group in Washington.
Why people believe these lies, Mark? I don't understand.
Because they want to believe those lies. Just like Hitler's followers wanted to believe Hitler's lies. You know, Hitler only had about a third of the population with him. When he took over utter power, he had only a third of the population supporting him, but they were like their own state within a state. They had these rallies. They were always like Heil Hitlering, you know, each other. They had like their secret handshakes or whatever, and it was all about the Hitler lies and that they were living in the Hitler universe. And that was going on for like 12, 15 years before Hitler acquired power. And then when he acquired power, it was like people said, whoa, what was that? He only had a third of the support, and then suddenly they did this coup d'etat. They had this big national incident. They burned down the Reichstag, kind of like blowing up a World Trade Center or something, and then declared martial law to find the traitors within. And then after that, it was all Heil Hitler all the time from then until sometime in 1945, from sometime in 1933 or 34. And it could be that way with Trump, unfortunately. It would be very messy. But, yeah.
Trump gets expelled, Mark.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And,
you know, as soon as he's no longer president, he could get arrested for all sorts of things that have been coming up. You know, his taxes, his violating the campaign laws by bribing the strippers who were the porn stars and stuff to keep quiet about his having had some kind of, I don't know, bizarre sexual relationship with these people and things like that.
The deal with Russia, no? We don't know for sure what was he doing in Russia and what is he doing with Putin and.
Well, tell me, does this sound like a sane person? We know that Trump was tweeting to himself, you know, so he's been tweeting for a long time. In 2013, he was tweeting, and he was on his way on a train or something to the Miss Universe in Moscow, which he was running as like a commercial operation. And he was going, oh, here I am in Russia. oh, it's so exciting. Will Putin be my new best friend? You know, like he was really excited that Putin could be his best friend or something. It was very strange. Already in 2013.
Well,
which is where all the supposed stuff happened with the prostitutes that happened to urinate on him, you know, so that he would have like some kind of bizarre, you know, Hitler sex. That's the other thing. Trump is a big fan of Hitler and Mein Kampf. That was one of the only books he ever read in his younger days, like in his late 20s, early 30s. With his first wife, she said that he slept with Mein Kampf under his pillow, and he had actually read it, at least at some point. And he was very inspired by, you know, the Fuhrer and his sneaky, nasty ingeniousness, you know, that Adolf Hitler was able to lie, you know, his posterior end off and get away with it so boldly. And, you know, people went along with it because there's special chemistry in a fascist situation where the liars lie, the people who hear the lie want that lie, and they know somewhere that there's another truth, but they're all being bullies together. The little minions get power through the big bully, you know, the big Hitler, the big Trump somehow, and they get all of their prejudices and all their hatreds gratified somehow through the big bully figure.
Well,
the
Mark,
dictator.
How do you explain all these followers, man? Are they
attempt.
Are they racist?
Yeah, I think Trump makes it okay to express all these pent-up white racist feelings you may have, you know, just the same way Hitler was, and Trump knows that. Trump knows that. Trump knows what the Nazis knew, that when the lie is big enough, they'll believe it. If the lie is so huge and you repeat it over and over again and it's simple, they'll believe it. And even if they suspect it's not the truth, it feels good to believe it. And so they there's like fantasy belief. And this is what you want in a fascism. I think Trump really knows that. He's not actually dumb. He's ignorant, but he knows Mein Kampf. He likes Hitler, and he's a natural fascist, and he's a born liar. He lies all the time. And the people around him love it. That's why they're like off there in their own dimension, you know, where you go, what? These defenders of Trump, you know, who are on the Senate floor are saying, you know, it was a perfect call. There was no evidence. There's been no evidence. There's been no witnesses. And we saw 12 people from the White House, you know, come up to the Senate, the House chambers, and by video to the Senate, telling you exactly how they were witnesses to all this. It's just incredible. And these are Republicans, or at least people who were in the government that the Republicans were running, whether or not they were truly in the party or not. But I think by and large, yeah, they were at least friendly to the Republican side of things. Otherwise, they wouldn't be exactly where they were, even if they came up from the lower ranks when Trump came in.
Well, I think it also has to do with the fact that people don't make the money. I mean, the wages are so low, the people struggling. You know, like there are no jobs. Like people used to make $20 per hour, like I don't know, 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Now they are doing $15 per hour, right?
Yeah, right. Wages have been going
and if
down.
If you're working in McDonald's, you are making...
in McDonald's, you're probably making more than you have in the past.
Less than $10 per hour.
Less than $10 per hour, yeah.
But that's nothing, Mark. Like, you know, gas is like $2, $2.50 per gallon. It's so expensive. The rent is more than $600 per month. Groceries are so expensive. I mean, I go to the store and I spend like $40 just to buy a few things.
Trump and the Trumpies have been going around saying that this is the most fantastic, most prosperous time in all of American history.
It's just a lie, Mark.
It's just a lie. It's not true at all. The official unemployment rate is low, but many people just don't work. You know, part of that is that work got to be a real crappy deal for the worker. So if you could, work less, and deal with less of that stress and all of that, then that was that was a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing, considering that you were making less and less money. But no, it's not true that things are at their most prosperous. Overall, in terms of leisure time, vacation time, the overall standard of living and quality of life, it's nothing like it was 30 years ago, or 40 years ago. It was a much higher standard of living at that time. Yes, better healthcare at that time too.
No healthcare. People like if you get cancer or some.
Right. That's why we need Bernie, I think,
Bernie
or Elizabeth Warren. They're going to push in the direction of universal healthcare, which all the European countries seem to have. The ones in the European Union, Canada has it. There doesn't seem to be any particular reason that we wouldn't have it, except that there's this underlying religion of brutal capitalism. Since Ronald Reagan, the Republicans felt like they had to present a more and more brutal face of capitalism, ignoring the lessons of the 1930s, where capitalism needed to be civil enough to accept the inherent faults of capitalism when it goes through its cyclic collapses, and support the population in those times. And capitalism always needs a certain degree of poverty, or it always generates a certain degree of poverty, and responsible capitalism takes care of the impoverished as part of society's benefit and profit for having a capitalism in the first place. You have to make it civilized and livable. Otherwise, you get these nasty revolutions and this social instability and all this stuff that has led to revolutions all over the world.
War.
And may have had a socialist or communist revolution in the United States, perhaps even a violent one way back in the 1930s, if it weren't for Roosevelt and his taking the country in the direction of a kind of social democracy capitalism thing that existed up until the 1970s. Really all the way up until Reagan, and then Reagan stabbed it in the back.
People should take lessons from Germany, Mark.
Yeah, sure. In terms of the kind of
like
social welfare state it has, compared to what we have.
We should done what happened in the 1930s, in the 1940s, like
the bad times. Yeah.
This clown, like Hitler, was just a clown who came, like Trump,
Hitler was a kind of actor, all that.
He was like Trump, man.
Trump has a more effeminate version of that, where he's like, big time, and that's Trump's version. It's not as angry and as growling, and a lot of the not so educated people in the U.S. go, he's so funny. He's like an average person. He's an average person liar.
El Duce.
Okay, some people say he's more like
Il Duce.
He's more like Mussolini.
A clown.
Than like Hitler, perhaps. Yeah, he's a bit more Mussolini-ish. In fact, he takes those Mussolini poses sometimes, if you notice. And I think he knows he's doing it, too.
Probably not, Mark. He's too ignorant to realize, no?
He likes and glorifies the image of dictators. So he likes dictators around the world now.
So maybe he studied
and
no?
I think that's one of the only things he did study. He studied the dictators. He probably thought it would give him some kind of edge in business. His style of business is like breaking all the rules, walking down a hallway, throwing a grenade at the board meeting, ducking, and then looking to see if possibly he can take over the company after he throws a grenade at the board meeting. And if it didn't work and they're ready for him, he just goes down the hall and throws another grenade. That was Trump's business style. It was really often illegal. He didn't pay his debts, and somehow he got away with it, for years and years. Just notorious, a notorious bandit. His sister was a high-ranking federal judge in the New York City area, and she retired relatively recently in a scandal. Trump's sister.
Oh.
She was,
Well, they're a bunch of criminals, Mark.
she was doing criminalish stuff as a federal judge, and she retired and got out in a deal. Oh, and there's the big Trump signal. This is what Trump thinks of my show, I'm sure. Yeah, Trump. Yeah, you gotta hate him, but people think you gotta love that Trump. I just gotta hate that Trump. He's so dangerous. He will be our dictator. If he is not removed, if he goes through the election, even if he loses the election, he's not going to leave. He's going to attempt something. You know it. And the Republicans are so willing to follow him. I suspect that they think that this is their last chance to preserve in their imaginings, their white privilege American, BS thing. I really think that Trump has succeeded in, dredging this thing out of the swamp, and that's what a lot of the Trumpies really want. Maybe they don't admit it to themselves, but I really feel that they would go along with such a thing. If it really came to it, a lot of these Trumpies, maybe even most of them, I just have that feeling, it's like, it's 1932 and this is Germany.
But Mark, the lessons from Germany, those are the lessons from Germany. They follow this clown. Hitler was a clown too.
A lot of people thought he was a clown, right?
They follow him to this war. He tried to invade, he invaded Europe, invaded the Soviet Union. He was so crazy that he made fatal mistakes, thank God. And the Russians were able to fight back.
Yeah, well, I think
recuperate their territory.
Yeah.
And then United States invaded France through Normandy, and then two fronts. The United States coming from France, and the Russians coming from the Soviets coming from Russia, or Soviet Union in those days. And they just crushed the German army
and Trump doesn't
Italians
doesn't know about this stuff.
I mean, no, but that's we should talk to people to study the World War II in Germany in the 1930s, 1940s.
There's an awful lot at stake.
This is what happened,
Right.
The people follow this clown, this demagogue, this crazy guy.
That clown made World War II, but this clown here in the United States could undo all of the advantages that victory in World War II gave to the United States. And the United States isn't necessarily, not necessarily as a great power, a real bad great power, but Trump, it seems to be in a traitorous position where he's destroying that great power, which is a diminishment of our safety. It's a diminishment of our safety in the world as a country and as people, individuals. Trump is, I think he's behaving in a practically openly traitorous way. And yet he talks about Schiff and Nadler and various other people, the whistleblower, as, these are traitors really. And what we used to do to traitors, and people laugh, and it's like he goes, no, really? No, just kidding. No, really? That kind of thing.
So I think we should tell to people, let's study the World War II. Study Germany, 1940s, 1930s.
1930s, 1920s even.
What happened in those years? They follow this crazy guy, this World War II unleashed, and Germany practically is destroyed, One of the most beautiful countries in the world, Germany.
Well, this is one of the most prosperous.
The cities, this beautiful Berlin and Dresden and all these fantastic cities get destroyed by the bombs of
we
Allies, right?
we lose our freedom here to a dictator Trump and to dictatorship of the Republicans, not obeying the Constitution. Whether that's war or not, Trump doesn't seem to be interested in war.
He
Unlike
is.
Hitler.
He is. And I mean,
Well, only
he
if
was trying to unleash a war with Iran.
only as a distraction. I think he took a gamble that by killing this general, he'd go, oh, what a great thing, you killed, the guy who was the commander of the various jihadists and, had this influence throughout the Middle East with these various militia groups and things. But it didn't really work out. People kind of thought, wow, he's trying to distract from his impeachment. I really think that's what it was. And he kind of went, oh, I'm so glad that no Americans were killed. I might have actually had to do the war. But actually, we're hearing that more and more people, like over 100, like 125 people have had to be evacuated to the American military hospitals in Germany for brain injuries. So they went through quite a pounding.
Oh,
and their brains have been
Iran?
scrambled and stuff. Yeah, they've had concussion traumas and things. It could be quite serious, a lot of them.
I mean, and this is not the end, Mark. I mean, who knows?
No, but he was happy not to have war because he just wanted to try it, and it didn't work.
We don't know what else
Trump tried it, but it didn't
Iran
really
is
benefit.
Iran is going to do to the United States, man. I mean, like,
Yeah, well,
this is not over
I think
yet.
they know that Trump is. I don't think they're going to be aggressive. I don't think Iran will be aggressive. I think our problems are here in their internal. But while we're busy with Trump is frittering away all sorts of national security advantages, and he's destroying the U.S. Constitution and ultimately, the prosperity and the freedoms of the United States and the security of the United States are in extreme, extreme danger. Yeah, I would say that. I really do think dictatorship. You could even say that he's a rogue president right now. You could call him a dictator. He'll be a dictator if he can be, even if he's not unelected. If he loses the election, he's going to claim something. He's going to try something. He will. He's going to lose his whatever empire he has financially, and he's going to lose his freedom if he's not president here in the U.S. He might have to flee. He might have to flee to Russia, and then he'll get his Trump Tower. It'll be like a little room at the top of one of those places in the Kremlin, those towers with the eyeballs painted on them. That's where Trump will be, and they'll call that Trump Tower.
But I mean, like, if he's capable of creating this crazy conflict with Iran, who knows what he's going to do if he's expelled from the presidency? And
I agree. Who knows? He could do anything.
If he loses the elections, we don't know what he's capable of doing. Man. Like,
Well,
I mean, this guy is insane. Trump is insane.
Yeah, I think he's insane. Well, he's stupid. I mean, he's not, okay. He's smart in a way. He's smart like criminals can be smart, bullies can be smart. He's smart the way a 14-year-old who never read a book really and didn't really like school could be smart if he was rich and he knew he could be a bully and he knew he could lie a lot and somehow it was an advantage to do so. That's like what Trump is. So he's a bully. He's something like that.
We have a question from Hector Garibay, who's watching us. He said, why the governor of Michigan legalized marijuana instead of giving driver's license to the people so people can go to work without fear. That's what he was trying to do,
Why do you think, Pablo?
Well, it's very unpopular to give a driver's license to the undocumented people. That's what happened, right? And
the Republicans made it more and more of a
and Republicans
issue.
Still they are controlling the Senate and
the state legislature.
the state legislature, right?
Right. State House of Representatives and Senate.
State House representatives, and that's why I think, but I don't know, maybe she can do it with executive order, but I don't know why she did it. I don't know, Hector. I don't know why she hasn't done that.
Probably if she had the legislature, at least one of the houses, maybe it could be done. But she has to have victories in the representational legislature before that will be a possibility. Yeah. We had it for a few months, some year way back, like sometime in the early 90s, maybe, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, there is more also. It needs more pressure, Mark. More people coming to the demonstrations, and more people supporting undocumented people. I think that's what happened.
So, Pablo, do you think Trump could perhaps be called a traitor?
He's a traitor. He's a liar. He's. I mean, I don't understand really people like. I mean, what are they thinking, man? Why do they believe all these lies? You know? To me, it's unbelievable. I mean.
Do you think that they,
if
know, but they don't want to know that it's
if
a
Bernie, I really like Bernie, you know. I wish that he is the president of the United States. But if he starts saying lies like Trump, start lying to people, start saying these crazy things like 3 million undocumented people vote in the elections, lies like that. I mean, I wouldn't believe in him, you know. I would say, well, I don't believe in Bernie, and I stopped believing in him, and I stopped supporting him.
Well, but
so I don't understand why people believe these lies. To me,
I think it's because
it goes beyond my imagination. Why do you believe this clown? Why do you believe somebody who tells lies?
I think because
I mean
they've built up like a reservoir of unanswered prejudice and hate. So they still hated certain people somewhere to some degree, and they still had prejudice somewhere to some degree, but they came to learn that, oh, society's changed, and I shouldn't be hateful, and I shouldn't have these old prejudices that I always had and Grandpa always had, and so, but that became a pressure that kind of built up unconsciously. And Trump allowed all of that to somehow take over a part of their mind where they were hearing things from Trump that logically they had to have known somewhere in their brain, their mind. It wasn't true, but it helped that pressure, you know, regarding their prejudices and their hates that had built up in such a way that they went along with it, even if somehow they didn't understand that they were.
We were
accepting
trying to answer Hector Garibay's questions,
Yeah.
But we lost the connection on Facebook. So
he might have gotten bored with it.
No, he's still online,
Oh, okay.
but we lost the connection on Facebook. But I connected again.
Well, for Hector's sake, perhaps you should tell him what happened in what I said in Spanish, maybe, or what we just said.
Oh, we just what you say, Mark?
But in Spanish, what did we just say?
Oh, Mark piensa que necesita más apoyo en la legislatura. No tiene el apoyo suficiente en la legislatura para legalizar las licencias de manejo. Eso fue lo que pasó, Héctor. Nos hiciste una pregunta sobre por qué la gobernadora de Michigan no legalizaba, daba licencias de manejo a las personas indocumentadas y en lugares legalizó la marihuana. Bueno, Mark piensa que fue que le falta apoyo en la legislatura. Los republicanos controlan la legislatura estatal, el gobierno de Michigan. Eso fue lo que pasó. So that's it, Mark. But going back to Trumpy and his lies, I mean, it goes beyond. I mean, it means are Democrats more rational than Republicans? Is this what's going on?
I think so. The Democrats
Are
think
more
about it.
rational? I mean, they are rational. I would say they
more
are
rational, more rational,
More
than
rational
the
than
Republicans right now. I mean,
Republicans are just irrational now, right now.
yeah. I mean, they're afraid of Trump. Many of them.
Why are they afraid? They are
because they think Trump will say, "Oh, you're not part of us," you know, and people will run against them in the primaries, and Trump will support them, and Trump will say bad things about them, and they won't win their local election to be the representative.
No. I'm talking about the voters, the common people, you know.
I would say voters like me are afraid of Trump, but I would say his own voters, they like him and they love him. They connect with him really strongly. I mean, he's not popular in terms of having majority support. He only has about 40% support, actually. But their support for him is very strong. I mentioned again that Adolf Hitler, before he had ultimate power, didn't have more than 30 to 33% support in Germany. And somehow he took that and turned it into dictatorship. He did it. You know, he had some pretext, a big event.
Georgine made a comment. Georgine said that Georgine is my wife, Georgine Bello. Mm-hmm. She say folks have all family prejudices that surface learned hatred.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
You know that, so they learn this hatred from their family, and Trump is encouraging this hatred. No, that's what I understand.
Well, I think a lot of people had that hatred somewhat under control, and they knew that hatred was impolite and no longer popular, you know, to say the least. And somehow Trump has allowed their inner demons to be released again, even if the people don't know it quite, you know, which is the scary thing about it. And in that way, it seems to look a lot like the Hitler in Germany kind of thing with the people that he won over early on before everyone was forced to do Heil Hitler.
The population of the United States is changing, Mark.
Yes, I think that's part
Latinos
the
are going to
psychology.
be a bigger. Well, they are already a bigger minority. It's going to be the biggest minority, and I think for this year, it's projected to be the biggest minority in the country.
Well, in
2020.
Sure. Well, in terms of what we're talking about.
So people don't like that. Don't like the population is changing.
I think that figures in terms of when we're talking about the Republican Party. They are very
scared.
They're very male, very white, you know, in their participation. And there was talk, like 4 years ago, how the party needed to change and become more diverse and accepting of other viewpoints and things because the demographics of the population was also changing. And they needed to encourage, you know, what would have been considered minorities to be in the party and more women and that kind of thing. And instead, they went with the Trump thing, and then they went in completely the other direction in terms of the idea that there should be a diversity. And you almost get the idea that a lot of the people who are behind Trump and support his lies, that there's some kind of you know, majority white backlash thing that is in their heads, you know, about
Georgine
all this.
said that you say that comment, Mark. He said folks have all family prejudices that surface.
Yes,
learn
I think I said
hatred.
something like that.
You say that, Mark.
Yes.
Correction. You see, I mean, we as a journalist, we try to tell the truth, you know. If we make a mistake, we correct it.
Well, this is our opinion, but it's based on fact.
We try to be honest, you know, with
we're trying.
With the people, you know.
Yeah, and
we don't say lies.
No, in Fox News,
And if we say
they're saying lies, and they know they're saying lies. This is a scary thing. A lot of the Republicans, especially high-ranking ones or the ones in the media, they know they're lying. They know it. They've got to know it. That's the scariest thing about it. You know, Jim Lehrer died recently. You know, the guy from PBS, the McLehrer
Journalist.
Lehrer NewsHour. He died, but one of the last things he said, it was an interview I heard that was maybe a year old or less than a year old. And he sounded weak and everything, but he was getting kind of excited. I heard it on the radio. And he said, you know, I always tried to present both views, but now things have gotten so tribal that you've got a situation where, he said, well, how do you present both sides, he said, when one side is openly lying. And that's more and more what we have. He actually said one side is just openly lying, and do you just let that go? You know, his style was always to let these people talk and these people talk. So the Republican, the liberal, and then the conservative Republican. And he was actually saying that the Republicans have kind of lost it, and it's a total lie now. And he doesn't see how you could practice his kind of journalism now, because one side has just decided to lie. And so how do you have civil discourse?
I just want to tell this to Republicans. Like, if Republicans were honest people and they care for minorities and for the people, I would support them. But they don't. They don't support minorities. They don't support other people. They don't support poor people. They even
say they're anti-government.
The enemy,
they're so strange.
They're the enemy of the people.
They want to become the government in order to destroy the government also.
They are the enemy of the people. You know, they're trying to destroy public schools.
Everything owned and controlled in the name of the public and by the public through democracy, they want to destroy. They want to privatize it and turn it into companies. I mean, this is really their ideal. That's why Trump is a businessman liar. You know, they think, oh, he'll be the perfect president. Maybe, because he'll discredit the government on one hand, and you know he'll lie and tell people everything's great and going really well on the other hand, and you think that he's going to steal for your side, that he's going to make life troublesome for people that you don't identify with, like minorities or whatever, and that so it's an ugly thing.
So that's the difference between progressive people and Republicans. We believe in science. We believe in true
the overall
kindness
good.
And honesty.
Not lying and civil discourse.
That's the difference between Republicans and progressives.
Progressives, and yeah, there are some nasty Democrats too, but you know.
But most Democrats don't.
Not like Republicans. They are truly what has become the vile and villainous party in the United States. The dictatorship party. The Trumpies, we call them.
Where is going to take you all these lies, you know? War?
It's going to take us to hell, Pablo.
Crimes?
I think it will take us to civil war, ultimately. I think that Trump is pushing things towards a civil war, and I really.
And I think the solution
logical.
is Republicans need to study the Constitution of the United States, the World War II, Germany.
They say they believe in the Constitution.
They don't even know the Constitution.
All my life,
man.
I've seen them be the ones come after the Constitution of the United States to harm it. Time after time, where it's not the Democrats.
I mean, here in Facebook,
it's the Republicans that do that.
I made this. I was talking to this woman on Facebook. She doesn't even know the Constitution, and she was like telling me that she follows the Constitution, and when I just mentioned the Declaration.
Oh, well, we can keep talking because that's what we're doing. Now we're doing the credits. But yeah, continue.
We talk about the Constitution, and I just mentioned Declaration of Independence. It wasn't even the Constitution. I said, all men are created equal.
Declaration of Independence.
And she didn't even know that that was part of
Those are the first.
the Constitution, right?
Yeah. Well,
She-
it's not quite the first words, but it's early.
But she knows. She didn't know the Declaration of Independence, something that you learn in elementary school, right? All men are created equal. She did, and I challenge
never
her.
heard
I challenge her like, what does that mean? All men are created equal. And she didn't even know what
Well,
to respond.
Under the pressure put on our public schools by the Republicans, I think they've ended up teaching less and less about our society and about culture and how to be a citizen.
And
they
Mark,
spend-
but you saw those words everywhere. The Declaration of Independence is
Sure,
in
I
the
did.
museums,
As I grew up, yeah.
in the
And so-
newspapers, and the TV.
You're right. It's less.
You know, it's like
known.
everybody should know these words.
Yeah.
And this woman telling me that she knows the Constitution and she doesn't even know
Doesn't know the Declaration of Independence.
the Declaration of Independence. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yes, we're living through the worst of times and
she
the worst
was,
of times.
and she said, "Oh, I've been a journalist for 34 years." Or something. It's just absurd.
Well, are we out of here? Does anyone know?
Are we done?
Are we done? I'm going to assume that this is it. I think they left. Are we over? Okay.
Thank you, Mark. That was very interesting.